All right, everybody. So today we're going to talk about the breath stops, and then from breath stops we'll move on to some of the vocal styles like the tone flowers at the lips or on the lips and so forth. So we'll start with identification of the breath stop, though, and how to apply it and how to use it. The breath stop is very simple, and I use this as an example. If you do it yourself, you probably should use some kind of long paper like this. I use this if I'm by myself want to vocalize. I use the long ones. When I'm teaching, I use the short ones, right? So I do that. Maybe you can tear a hole right here. You can see yourself, and you say ba 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 ba. But when I'm teaching, I'm going up and down all of them. The reason we use that one is because you don't want to have to hold your arms up in the air like this all the time, which you have to do with the tissue. So we're going to start, though. Let's identify what we're talking about. Here we go. Watch this. Pa, 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 ba, ba, ba. What did I do to stop my breath? I'm stopping my breath from leaking, and only sound is coming out. So the idea is that the breath stop doesn't mean stop singing and choke yourself to death. It simply means don't let any excess breath come through your vocal cords. And when you're singing, why in the world would you want your tone to be breathy? They asked Patti, who was considered the only perfect singer that ever lived, what do you think about when you sing? And she said, don't sing breathy. Now, if I'm using a microphone and singing pop music, then I go, unforgettable, that's what you are. But we're talking about classical singing. And even if you have a microphone, it's supposed to at least sound like you're not breathy, right? So we're going to get into the breath stop and where they can happen. But right now, let's establish the whole idea of the difference between this, fa, and this. Fa, fi, fo, fum, fi, fo, fum, fi, fo, fum, ba, 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 babagina, 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 babino, babagallo. See? Mississippi, Arkansas, Texas, New Hampshire. In other words, the idea is not to leak air, and I've done a little bit of this over the past when I've done the videos, but today we're going to use it to lead us into a vocal style that was considered one of the most exquisite styles in the bel canto era, which is the flower of the lips. But right now, I want to go through this. Ba, 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 ba. And some of the vocalists I use, I like ba, 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 because it closes your nose and makes your voice jump up into the true mask, which is up here. So if I want to be a true mask singer, I have to be careful. But however, I can do this breath stop anywhere I want. Right now it's pa is out here and ba is right there. Pa, ba. So you can see it on the paper. The paper is very revealing, see? And I go like that. Pa, ba, ba, oh, it's so nice to see you. So the whole idea is that I can pick the location of my breath stop. Those of you who like to sing in the nose, you can sing in the nose with the breath stop too. You can go pa, 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 how it's so nice to be here. And there's some country singers that sing like that. They don't sing breathy, but they're singing with the breath stopped in the nose. See? So if I move it up here and sing in the true mass deliberately and place my voice, I go ba 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 la la la. So pa ba la. Now this, of course, leads to the chakra chart. Those of you who know yoga know something about the circle of the chakras. Hatha yoga, the ones that are the most commonly used. Some people call them the frontal chakras. But you start here, and you do the breath stop here. Pa, pa, and I'm going to move to each chakra. Pa, pa, fa, 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 fa. I'm could name the singers that use these. This was the famous Max Lorenz, and then American tenor James King used it a lot because he studied with Lorenz. But Lorenz was the great Helden tenor during the Second World War in Germany. Did all the big heavy Wagners like both Siegfrieds and Tannhäuser and Tristan and all the rest of them. And his breath stop was here. Mario Delmonico, the great Italian dramatic tenor who sang Otello 467 times and never had a vocal problem, stopped his breath right here. He used to demonstrate like this. See? If I blow my breath through there, I said, don't you get tired? Doesn't it tire your voice? He said, oh, no, no. He said, if I let the air slip past this point and come up and hit me in the throat, then it'll damage my throat, damage my voice. But as long as I can keep the breath stopped right here, never a problem. And he proved it by a he died at 67 of kidney disease and was still singing. In fact, he sang a big concert just 2 weeks before he died. So this stop breath is one of the great breath stops traditionally right here. And I go, pa, 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 fa, fa, va, vo, vo, va. Oh, you today I'm feeling fine. And you don't want the breath to leak. That's all. Now, let's go down to the heart chakra, which is right behind, on the sternum. So I go, pa 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 pa, fa 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 fa, fa 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 fa, la. And you can see what I'm doing. Saw say seesaw, saw say seashell, seashells, and but the seashore, seesaw, 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 she sells seashells, she sells seashells, la 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 la. The idea, simple. Don't leak air. If you leak air, it gets into the edges of the vocal folds and can do all sorts of things to them. Eventually, over a period of time, it causes nodules, but it can also do something disastrous, like damage a nerve. It also, if you're not careful, you can get all kinds of broken blood vessels, capillaries and things start to bleed. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of pressure in there, particularly those of you that sing the big repertoire, you know what I'm talking about. You're singing big, monstrous, dramatic repertoire, and those are all, anywhere from 3.5 hours to 5.5 hours long, and it all depends on your stamina and all kinds of things. But if you get tired, it starts to slip, the air starts to creep up through your throat, and the first thing you know, you damaged a nerve or something. But let's move on down through the chakras. So the last one we did was on the sternum. Now let's move to the navel. Mr. Pavarotti sang his navel. Jussi Björling sang here. Zenka Milnov sang here. A lot of great singers sang right here. Tetrasini sang here. Aureliano Pertile said he sang on his pectoral muscles, which is pa, fa, pa, sa, pa, fa, sa, la. I'm stopped on my pectoral muscles. If I drop on down and go to my navel, now Luciano Pavarotti sang on his navel. So how do I do that? If I'm leaking air, I'm going cla, pa, fra, sa, cla, pa, cra, 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 pa, sa, la, la. You can hear it now. I don't have to show you every one of these. But the idea is that any aspirated consonant can puff air, and any time you're singing anything, you can leak air. So, if I want to say sa, I go sa or sa. One of them leaks, one of them doesn't. One of them is me sending out air to make sound, to sing, and I'm killing myself. I got to stop. Any air that is not utilized to make sound is wrong air. That's all. The air in the case of a singer can only be used to make sound. And if there's not pure, unbreathy, non-breathy sound, you're making a mistake that you will pay for down the line. One way or another, you will get nodules, some kind of damage, something. You look at Adele, look at Lionel Richie, look at the pop singers that have had this terrible problem, but there have been plenty of classical singers who've had this trouble too. Don't kid yourself. It is a disaster to start leaking air or to start blowing air. Now, on my navel, it's like this. Pa, sa, ta, 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 da, do, do, de, di, da. Now I've literally stopped my breath in the manner that I've been demonstrating with this tissue, except now I've stopped it on my navel. You also have a chakra in the center of the abdomen. And Enrico Caruso said, keep the breath well down toward the abdomen also. So if I do the breath stop here and I go, pa, ta, ka, ta, 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 so, si, se, ta, pa, ta. You notice that I'm making all those aspirated consonants and I'm not letting any of them leak, and I've got them all placed right there. My little tie string is right there on my shorts, right? So I'm going, ba, la, lo, lo, la, la, if I demonstrate that this way, you got, you know that famous, that little fast song that's in the old book, the old Italian, the Adi Antiche in Italian? The whole idea is to sing without leaking air, if you can do it. See? Now the next chakra, after we leave the center of the abdomen, is the perineum. And the perineum is the same principle of pa, sa, ta, right? Ta, except now I'm going to put it straight down and go, ta, ein schweres mir Vater, ich fand es ein höchster Not. If I want to, get a little barky, a little yell a little bit, try to be a little bit more dramatic than perhaps my natural voice really is, and get away with it because I don't leak. If I don't leak, it doesn't hurt me. If I leak, it's a disaster. Even singing very light music can lead to nodules and bleeding capillaries in the throat. The big, puffy, dramatic moments are the ones that damage nerves or tear. So one famous American baritone had the vocal cord torn loose. It actually tore loose from its anchor, and they went in and tried to sew it up again, but they couldn't get him so he could sing anymore, right? So it's air is either your best friend or your worst enemy. If it's leaking and coming through your voice, it's your worst enemy. If you have it under control and you're not leaking, it's your best friend. Also, the size of the bigger the drum, the bigger the sound. So if I can breathe in and not lose excess air through my voice, then the air that's left that remains in my body works like a drum, and I get overtones and vibrations and all kinds of colors and things from. Remember that I can stop my breath if I breathe very shallow. I say I'm going to breathe here. Now I'm going to stop my breath. See, I'm not leaking air, but I still sound terrible because my air column is about this long. So I've got to get an air column. Remember the clarinet? Here's the reed, the mouthpiece. It squeaks, just the mouthpiece. But if I hook it over a column of air, all of a sudden you can hear it in every theater in the world. What if I cut that clarinet in half? What does half of a clarinet sound like, right? As opposed to the throat. Then somebody figured out, the ideal length of the air column relative to the reed and its vibration. We have reeds and we have vibrators. They're called vocal folds. And the point is, do we want to have a shallow breath under that? Also, where are my breath stops? Can I make breath stops that are all over the place? What if I raise my soft palate and say, well, I've got a breath stop working. I'm not leaking, but it sounds like bloody heck because I've totally distorted my throat. My phonation. What language do you know that's spoken that way? Somebody says to you, raise your soft palate. You just stop and think, well, gosh, now, what language do we know that we speak that way? Perhaps if you're a character actor of some sort, right, you might find a way to use that. But otherwise, imagine young romantic leads and they say, hello, oh, I love you so much. It doesn't exactly sound very romantic, does it? So the idea is to go, blah, and there's your natural phonation and your natural throat. Can I stop the air on a brr? Let's see. What do you think? Brr. Yes. What if I go brr, brr, brr? Well, obviously I'm leaking air like crap. So what if I stop leaking and go brr, 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 there's certainly no reason that we should leak air unless somebody tells us to and we believe them. And some people are very charismatic. They'll tell you things, and oh, you think you're getting the secrets of eternal singing. The truth is, you're on the way to wrecking your voice. Anytime air slips through that is not utilized to vibrate and make sound, it is excess air, and it is destructive, either slowly or suddenly. All right, now let's go to the tip of the tailbone. I have a tailbone way down there someplace. I'm going to breathe down there. Now I've got all that air. Do I just let it go or not? Do I go pa, pa? What do I do? Pa. Or do I put a breath stop on the tip of my tailbone and go Do I need to move the paper? Most decidedly, most definitely, no. Right? So this is an introduction, sort of, to not leaking air. You don't need to leak air. We're going to stop leaking air. We're going to try to show people how to rehabilitate their voices a little bit, because if you have a problem with your throat, with nodules, with fatigue, with hoarseness, all these things, I'll guarantee you nothing goes through your throat but air. We got two throats. We got an esophagus that handles all the food and so forth, but we have a trachea. And nothing goes through the trachea but air, and it goes on the way down through the trachea. It passes through the larynx, or what some people call the voice box. And therefore, the only thing that can damage your voice, or you might say help your voice, is air, breathing. So the more I breathe, when I do that, if my throat's really relaxed, you see my larynx goes down. What if I snore? What if I go, see how my throat moves down? But it's relaxed. I'm not depressing it with muscles like that. I'm just breathing inward. How are you today? It's so nice to see you. I'm going to go down, get them into a long big back later. You can also understand every word I'm saying. It makes the diction very clear because it becomes a kind of a speech-sized phonation. And it's much easier to understand. And it projects like mad. Like most sounds that are sealed, like a drum, boom, you hear the sound all over the theater. So if you can stop your breath and fill up your lungs, some people say, oh my gosh, you have such a big dramatic voice. Well, not really. Not really. That should be decided by your voice, how your voice has to work and sing against a full orchestra. If you have to sing against a full orchestra sound and it's a lot of writing in the middle voice and a lot of it is loud or dramatic, forget it, right? Unless you are gifted with a voice that goes blah and sounds like a huge voice. In other words, don't mess with dramatic repertoire. I've done it. I'll confess, I've done it. See? And I've also spread my throat. I've done everything under the sun. You can yawn and then put a breath stop on and sing like that. No, no, no. But you know what? It sounds so artificial. It's so terrible. Why do we do that? Or the other thing is the nose. No, no, no. I put my breath stop right in my nose. Any kind of combination, soft palate, yeah, they'll have you hold a piece of candy on your tongue, make a hole in your tongue, like this, right? And then say yin yang. So I go, yin yang, yin yang, yin yang, yang. Now I've got my breath stopped right here. Now, what language am I going to speak that is spoken that way on the planet Earth? See? That's the problem. Instead of saying, dammi la tazza che vogliamo andare in città per comprare qualcosa per mangiare stasera. They go, oh, oh. And I'm telling you, it is so distorted. First of all, they're very hard to understand. If you do understand them, the tone is so weird. It sounds like they're from the moon or Mars. Who knows? So we just did the entire circle of the chakras. right? No problem at all, and none of them leaked. I could do this to show you, right? La, 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 la. None of them leak. And my voice sits up there, and I've done enough, 45 years, 64 roles, hundreds of performances. I can tell you which ones carry over the orchestra at the big theater, and which ones do not. Which ones do not. Okay, so I hope this will help someone along the way, give them an idea about this thing that Lily Lehman, I didn't coin this term, breath stop, that was Lily Lehman, who could sing anything and did. She would sing everything. She was the Isolde, the Wagnerian soprano of her era, but at the same time could turn around and sing big dramatic coloratura music, and she could do anything. That lady could sing pretty much anything. That's a real technique. What did she use for a method? She used something called the Valsalva maneuver, which is, guess what? That's a form of breath stop on the heart chakra, which is the sternum. So if I go, get the idea? See? You have sobbing. What does sobbing do? Well, as we show, the falsetto leaks, right? If I stop the falsetto leak, I get or if I'm training countertenors, I teach them how to stay in falsetto but not leak. Oh, some men have falsettos that are absolutely beautiful, and frankly, they sound better as countertenors than do sometimes as normal chest register voices. Some of the best ones that I've ever heard were really lyric baritones, but they use the falsetto, and the falsetto for them work. Then there's this fellow named Jarovsky, a Frenchman who sings in Paris all the time, and he's got an absolutely gorgeous voice. If you can find him on YouTube doing Vivaldi or something, you see what I mean. The voice is beautiful, but he doesn't leak. When you do a falsetto, don't leak air. In general, you know what? Don't leak air ever. Most pop singers, that used to use the microphone really up close like that, they had to because nobody could hear them. Breathy sounds don't carry over an orchestra. Whereas you hear a baby singing at Costco or Walmart or in a big church or something, and you got to take the baby out. The baby's going, ah, ah, ah. Well, you can test your babies, just hang this in front of their faces like this when they go, ah, 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 and guess what? Paper doesn't move. Some people like to use the whining child for a placement, for a vocal placement, voice placement. So if I say, "Sunday, what you made me do? You're going to make me go to bed, and I don't want to go to bed. I want to watch TV like everybody else. You realize you're up there, and the breath is nothing else. And I can sing that way and not leak air. The problem is with the acting expression. You're whining everything all the time. But the falsetto attachment, or sobbing, you can use a lot too. Right? Now, do I need to do that? Do I need to do that audibly so everybody can hear me sobbing like we won't say what? Well, I can't say a word because one of the greatest singers in history, Benjamin Gili, sobbed for a whole career. My old teacher, Olga Reese, was friends with him, and she said she stopped going to the opera to hear him because she couldn't stand the sobbing. But when he sang concerts and did songs, he still had that incredible, magnificent voice of his. It was, I hate to say second only to Caruso. Let's just say different, maybe as beautiful, but a fabulous voice. And he sobbed all the time. He studied with the same teacher, Antonio Cotogni, that Lauri Volpi studied with, and Lauri Volpi did not sob. Right? And then you have, we're going to go now to the next tape, and we're going to discuss a little bit. This exercise of they used to call it the candle flame. This is all based on originally the candle flame, and the candle flame must not move, and it was considered the oldest and most important of all vocalises. And the reason was that the holy people would walk around in church chanting prayers and singing prayers, and they would hold a candle to their face so you could see the face of the Holy One. If they blew air, of course, the candle would blow out. So that's where this all got started. A long time ago, people were doing this, and they had to get that candle so it didn't leak. Now, when they invented tissue paper, things got a little bit easier. You didn't have to, burn your nose, burn your lip, or whatever, and you'd have to relight all the time. But anyway, we'll talk about some other things in the next round. Okay? I hope that I was clear about not leaking air, though. Okay. Bye.